Hey, Lisa. Hey, Lisa, do I need to make you a co-host? Emily, I made you a co-host.
Okay, thank you. Can I share my screen, bring up the PowerPoint, just make sure everything's okay real
Sure.
quick? Okay.
I'm sorry, you probably didn't hear me. This is Lisa, the captioner. If you go to my name in the participant list and then right click, you'll have the option to assign me to caption.
Okay. It says it says to make you a host or a co-host. Is that what I need to do?
You can make me a co-host. I think actually you can do it just as me as a participant. If you go down to that icon that says participants and click on that,
Uh-huh.
and then if you go over to hover over captioner Lisa Colston, and there should be the ellipses. And when you click on that, you should have the option to assign me to caption.
I don't see that one. I just see chat, ask to start video, pin, make host, co-host,
Okay.
record.
Well, go ahead and make me a co-host and see if that helps us out.
There you go. See if that works.
I think you also have to turn off the live captions because it does like an auto generate.
Okay, here's captions. I'm gonna do show captions or set up manual captioner. Is that what I should do maybe?
That's what you should do, yeah.
Okay, on assign a participant to type. Is that what I
Yeah.
want to do?
That's correct.
Okay. Now let me go back down to your name. Assign to type. Okay, so now
Got it.
you got it? Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I'm gonna slowly start letting some people in. Hey, Lynn, I put you as a co-host so that you could help let people in, please. Thank you. Maybe. Morning, everyone. We're going to start in just a few minutes. We're still letting a few people in. We don't want to leave anybody out. We're going to get started in just 1 minute. Thank you all for being here. Okay, so we have a packed agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. Thank you all for being here. I know that everyone's lives are busy and you have a lot going on, especially this time of year. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and is having a great start to 2023. Here in our office, I know we're really excited about what is to come this year. We have a lot of exciting things coming down the way for us and that will involve each and all of you. And it's because of all of the work that you all do day in and day out that makes us possible to do our jobs here. And it's just been really a blessing to been able to work with you all and get to know all of you. And we're really excited about this year and things to come. So we're going to jump right into the January 18th webinar for the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood. And here we go. So first thing, just the agenda. So you guys have a kind of an idea of what's going to happen today. So I'm going to give just a quick update about a recap of 2022, some things to come in 2023, just some overview of what the Regional Collaborative Network here in our office and what our office does. For some of those who might be their first time here on the webinar, we love seeing these large numbers of people because that means we're reaching more children and more families every day. So that's great that you guys are here. You're going to hear from our executive director, Miss Amy Neal. She's going to give you a brief overview about the preschool development grant, which I'm sure all of you guys have heard a little bit here and there that we just got awarded that and we're really excited. So she's going to give you some information on that. And then we have our early childhood mental health consultants with us today, Emily Keeley. She graciously has reached out and wanted to connect with you all on the regional collaboratives. And we're really excited about that collaboration that's happening. And I think you're going to gain some great valuable resources and information from her today. Then you're going to hear from our consultants at Compass, Kate Irish and Sarah Heineminer, about your mid-year report and some year-end report preparation. And then, of course, we'll have time for the questions and discussions at the end and go over some upcoming exciting events that we have going on here. So just a few housekeeping things before we get started. Please remember to remain on mute. If you have questions or comments, please drop them in the chat as we go and we'll come back to them at the end. And we'll read your question aloud. There also will be a time at the end for questions. Please use those reaction buttons throughout. That's a great way to give somebody a thumbs up or you love what they're doing, encouragement along the way. Please be sure to stay on mute until times of questions. We love to see your faces, so if you'll turn on your video, that's great, but we also understand if you're multitasking. But you might want to stay tuned to the very end because there might be some exciting things throughout the webinar that are to come your way. So I'm going to pause just a second because we're continuing to let people in. We are over 200 people, and that is amazing. So before we get started, I just wanted to point out that Amanda Atkins is wearing a lovely hat today, and she's very stylish as always. But Amanda, where can I get one of those?
Well, you know, if the first 15 people who enter their name and email address into the chat, we will mail you one.
Well, I would be getting your name in the chat if I was you, and that might be happening throughout. So a couple of our takeaways today that we're going to talk about is, and I want to task you with at the end of the webinar, I hope that you guys are be able to answer these confidently. But do you know who your early childhood mental health specialist is for your area? And if not, I hope you know how to find them when we're finished. And are they a part of your regional collaborative team yet? Keyword yet. And I want you to consider your community needs during this webinar for many reasons, but I want you to consider it for how can early childhood mental health specialists support your needs and how can you support them? And then as we talk about the mid-year and year-end report, I want you guys to remember that SMART chart that you used when you were filling out your request for application, along with some other things that we've done throughout the years with the webinar and technical assistance. And think about your outcomes that you guys wrote in your action plans when you did your RFA a few months ago. So just as a reminder, here at the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood, we like to talk about our original goals here. And our mission is to provide leadership and direction for the Commonwealth with the goal of maintaining a comprehensive and sustainable prenatal to age 5 early childhood system that ensures a strong foundation for all children. And as we mentioned, the Regional Collaborative Network. So as you may recall, in 2019, the Early Childhood Advisory Council voted after an evaluation process and recommendation findings to streamline and align what we now used to call community early childhood councils into what we refer to now as regional collaboratives. And so they reduced the number of single councils to 37 different collaboratives in order to support better practice and provide new opportunities to provide greater impact. And so the Kentucky Regional Collaborative Network is tasked with uniting organizations in their local communities to address the critical early years of a child's life. They align the birth to 5 strategies to reduce duplication and leverage additional resources to ensure that each child and family in their community have a strong start. They collaborate with the Kentucky Center for Statistics on our early childhood profile, which you might remember was last updated, and we added some additional factors in June, and we presented that at our Early Childhood Institute. And this profile is used to connect prevention strategies along the birth to 5 pathway to increase access and opportunity. And it's a great tool to gather data and more information about your community and state. So if you're not familiar with that, I really suggest that you check that out. They also invest in data-driven strategies through the 2-year grant that we have through our office to grow those Kentucky bright spots. And they affect change to make measurable progress toward locally defined community goals. Here's a map of the current regional collaborative network. And as you can see, we've added 3 new regional collaboratives this past request for application process and 6 new counties. So we currently have 35 out of 37 active collaboratives and 105 active counties. But we work daily in our office here to continue to add more people to existing collaboratives and to get those who aren't currently involved. Because we know the more that we have involved, the more children and families that we're able to reach. And that's a lot of help to you guys that are boots on the ground doing this job day in, day out. And so this is a current map. And if you see a county in white, it's because it means it currently does not have an active collaborative. But if you're on this webinar today and you're not familiar with your local collaborative, please reach out to me to get connected with your local chair, because everyone here can bring something valuable to that table. So just kind of a look back at 2022, like I mentioned, we had a busy year and we're really looking forward to an exciting 2023. And as you guys can remember, we moved to a 2-year request for application, and we were able to have a 200% increase in investment. So we are going to be investing over $6 million in the next 2 years to grow what works. And we refreshed that application to be more focused, targeted, simplified, and equitable to align with our goal of investing in best practice solutions through local innovation and decision making. And we're continuing to grow those Kentucky bright spots around those defined strategies of ready families, ready communities, and ready schools. And thanks to you guys and the work that you guys are doing, we've been able to talk about this work in ways that we haven't done before. And so following the RFA, we were able to do a very extensive analysis around some of the work. And we found that we have 94% doing strategies around ready families, 89% doing strategies around ready communities, and 43% doing strategies around ready schools. And our review indicated that our core buckets of strategies include home visitation, professional development, prenatal to 3 strategies, early literacy strategies, and best practice transition strategies. And so from the analysis, we have built targeted webinars such as this one today. And thanks for all of you guys being here. We've had a 250% increase in average participation. We've increased our technical assistance and will continue to customize the specific needs to each collaborative need, which we'll talk about more later in the webinar with the mid-year and year-end reports. So in 2023, we plan to grow and standardize those bright spots and continue to build and refine standardized metrics and outputs and outcomes. And of course, continue to get as many people involved in this work to ensure that more children and families of our Commonwealth have a strong start. So I'm going to pass it to our Executive Director, Amy Neal, who's going to provide some updates on the recent preschool development grant. But first, I really wanted to pass it back to Amanda because she's kind of sporting something else cool today.
So the first 15 people who put how they're involved in the world of education will get one of these really cool backpacks mailed to them.
Thanks, Amanda. Amy?
All right, Megan, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I was trying to scroll through and find all of our advisory council members. I'm going to leave people out because there are 229 people on the webinar. I'm amazed, you all. Megan mentioned that there's been a 250% increase in participation. I will tell you all, when this team was assembled, that was a priority goal for us, was to strengthen and cultivate state and local partnerships. This team is really incredible, and we understand that the work happens at the local level. And if we're not reaching our cross-sector partners, we're really missing the boat. And so we knew that we needed to do something different with our Kentucky Regional Collaborative Network. And so we really cannot thank you all enough for investing your time and energy and expertise in these webinars. We've taken it very seriously. We hope that you all have seen that in our investing differently, in listening to you all with the 2-year grant application, simplification, and everything else. And, you know, just from the leadership perspective, we will continue to listen and learn with you all. So I just want to thank Megan for her continued leadership. She's doing just such a phenomenal job. And just my team, because we are a really small team and we basically do everything together. So Brenda, I know that you're timekeeping, so help me out here. The 3 advisory council folks that I saw, and again, I only got through a couple pages, but thank you so much. I saw Amy Smith, and I saw Dr. Jason Gilbert, and I saw Rena Grat. So thank you so much for your ongoing leadership. So real quick, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the preschool development grant. We were notified on December the 16th that Kentucky had secured a 11.9 million annual 3-year, nearly $36 million grant for early childhood in the state of Kentucky. And we are absolutely thrilled. And you all may have seen the governor announce this at his press conference on December 28th. We also announced that in a social media release, and there's been over 12,000 interactions with that. Press release went out on the 29th, and we are going to have a invitation only kickoff meeting on January 30th and 31st, and I can talk more about that. We do have a dissemination plan that you all will be able to find soon on our website, but the invitation only kickoff meeting will be for our core implementation partners. So a little bit about the preschool development grant. Oh, 1 minute up and Rebecca's up. Okay, so running behind already. Megan, let me know if I need to pause, okay? So what is important to us is this, is that we share information effectively and that we communicate and inform you all. Because we only do our work with and through our partners. That's the only way we're successful. But it was really, really important, and it is really important. This is a very comprehensive grant, as you might imagine, $36 million that we as a team and with our consultants wrap our arms around this. We've got to have a really, really strong foundation as we kick this off. A couple basics. Thank, obviously, the leadership of our Early Childhood Advisory Council. Without them, we could not have submitted this application. They serve as oversight for this grant. The Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood serves as the lead entity and will have responsibility for execution and administration of the 3-year grants. The grant, at a high level, I will share with you, it is really about making the connection to the planning grant. And it was very important that you demonstrate how you were building out from that 3-year grant, the strategies from that 3-year grant, elevate workforce, and increase access and quality for the most at risk. There were 6 priorities that you had to address, and then there was a bonus area. But Kentucky will need to refresh our needs assessment. We will need to refresh our strategic plan. And then the other priority areas are maximizing parent and family engagement, workforce and disseminating best practices, supporting quality improvement, and enhancing quality and expanding access. And our bonus area is coordinated enrollment. We had a really great opportunity to work with some diverse partners, and therefore our application was really innovative. So these partners you're going to hear a lot about. They're going to do they're going to have a really big part in leadership. They include Partners for Rural Impact, National Center for Families Learning, the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, which obviously include the Division of Child Care, Kentucky Center for Statistics, Kentucky Department of Education, Education and Labor Cabinet, Office of Apprenticeships, the Head Start Association, Council for Post-Secondary Education, and the Commonwealth Education Continuum, the University of Kentucky Child Care Aware, and Adult Education. And I think the last couple things that I would share today, you guys are the guinea pigs. This is sort of like the first big overview we've provided, is in the end, what's in it for Kentucky and what's going to be better is it really is such an opportunity for the Commonwealth, and it is about supporting working families. And it's about ensuring that children have a strong start in school and life and helping to grow Kentucky's economy. And this 3-year process is starting with the end in mind, and it's about sustaining Kentucky's bright spots, identifying more of Kentucky's bright spots and sustaining them. So we'll be talking about sustainability from day one. So I'm going to stop there because it looks like Brenda's cutting me off anyway, and turn it back to Megan.
Thanks, Amy. And like we mentioned before, there'll be time at the end for questions and discussions if you guys have any more questions for Amy regarding the preschool development grant. So, and you can always drop them in the chat too. So I would like to introduce our partners that are with us today. But first, I really wanted to shout out to Rebecca because she has on a really cool shirt today.
And the first 15 people that put in their regional collaborative or county can have one of these.
Thanks, Rebecca. So I'm going to pass it over to our partner, Emily Kiwi. I'm going to let you share the screen, Emily. She's going to share with us from Kentucky Strengthening Families.
Thank you, Megan. All right, well, I'm happy to be here. I reached out to Megan, and we were just talking about how with my department at the state can really collaborate and partner with the regional collaboratives. I recognize several names on here today, which is really exciting. But what I want to do is just give a little overview of Kentucky Strengthening Families Initiative, talk about some of our training programs, our curriculums, and then also talk about how we at the state can support the work that you're doing with the regional collaboratives. So just a little bit about me. This is a picture of my family. My title, I'm the Early Childhood Social Emotional Consultant at the Department for Public Health. So our department is a small but mighty department. We're housed under maternal and child health and then early childhood mental health. So my primary role at the state level is just providing support around the Kentucky Strengthening Family Initiative. And that includes trainings, it includes collaborating with community partners such as the GOEC and the regional collaboratives. Really, this is kind of the hardest part, is developing these relationships. I'm excited because the regional collaboratives, and you're going to see our missions are very similar, and I think that we have similar outcomes. So this is just, I think, a very natural collaboration between us at the state and with the regional collaboratives, and I'm excited to kind of share our programs. Some of you probably are familiar with our programs, some of you may not, and that's okay. That's kind of the purpose of and why I wanted to present today. So really kind of the ultimate goal is I would like for you all to understand what we do at the state and then how we can support you. This is my colleague. She is not joining us today, but I do want to introduce her because we are definitely partners in crime. So Shannon Parker, she's the Trauma-Informed Care and Resiliency Consultant at the Department for Public Health, and she has a very unique role. She's kind of this bridge between early childhood, which is what I focus on, and then youth and adolescence. And so those of you who may be interested or may have collaborations with other programs that serve older youth and adolescents, we will be launching a Youth Thrive and Youth Cafe across Kentucky starting next school year. And I'll be sharing our contact information at the end of the training. So I always like to start our presentations just kind of sharing our mission and vision statement with the Kentucky Strengthening Families Initiative. So really our purpose here is in Kentucky, we want to strengthen families by enhancing those protective factors. And protective factors are really embedded in all the work that we do at the state level through all of our trainings. This is really kind of the foundation and kind of the driving force of what we do. And the goal here is that we want to reduce the impact of adversity and increase the well-being of children and families through those community state partnerships. So again, our partnership with you guys with the GOEC is just fulfilling part of that mission. And our vision here is that we want all Kentucky children to be healthy, safe, and prepared to succeed in school through those families that are supported and strengthened within their community. So you guys with the regional collaboratives, you're at that community, that local level that are really ensuring that families are strengthened. So another one of our goals at this state is we want everybody to kind of use this common language when we talk about protective factors. And I'm sure you're using some of this language within the work that you're doing, but we really want this common language when we're talking about protective factors and then strengthening families. And it's about this connection, being intentional with making these connections, with using protective factors to help benefit the families and children that we all serve. So this little visual kind of shows a little bit about how the Kentucky Strengthening Families Initiative is structured. So we're really built on the National Strengthening Families Framework, which is inclusive of these protective factors. I also want to share that Kentucky is very unique in that we added a sixth protective factor. So this last protective factor, nurturing and attachment, is not seen in the national framework, the Strengthening Families Framework. And so I think that's something that we can be proud of with Kentucky. And that also is really supportive of your work, because nurturing attachment, and I'll get into this in a little bit more detail, is really relevant during those early years with young children and an adult, just really creating that nurturing, caring bond. And so the goal here is that when these six protective factors are present, we're building stronger families. And then the outcome is to reduce the impact of adversity and increase the well-being of children and families. So again, I think the partnering with the regional collaboratives is just a great, natural, kind of makes sense partnership. So here I kind of want to share a little bit about, again, kind of how our initiative is structured. So you can kind of think of the Kentucky Strengthening Families Initiative as our overarching goal, or like our umbrella on how we want to strengthen families in Kentucky. And then underneath this umbrella are several different training curriculums or programs that we are implementing statewide. And the reason why these programs are underneath our umbrella is because all of these programs really encompass that mission and vision statement of Kentucky Strengthening Families. So our Connect the Dots program, Family Thrive, parent cafes, and provider cafes. And soon we're going to be adding Youth Thrive and youth cafes under our umbrella. So I would like to go into a little bit more detail in regards to 3 of these trainings that you see here under our umbrella. So Connect the Dots, Family Thrive, and then parent cafes. And really explain how these trainings can benefit the work that you're doing locally within your regional collaboratives. So really, before I do that, I kind of want to share this slide on kind of what does this mean to you. So the state with Kentucky Strengthening Families, we really can help and be kind of this natural partnership to collaborate with the regional collaboratives. We can offer trainings under that umbrella to the regional collaboratives or your early childhood partners. So the purpose here is really to connect, use a common language, and be intentional with incorporating those 6 protective factors within the work that you're doing. So those protective factors really help mitigate risk caused by stress, trauma, and adversity. So our Connect the Dots training. So a little bit about this overview. So Connect the Dots really provides, again, that common language and a common approach to addressing challenging behaviors in young children in a way that builds that strong social emotional skills within those young children. This is really a program that's geared towards children under the age of 5, but can be modified for older children. So again, the age range that this training is geared to really meets the population that you're serving within the regional collaboratives. This is a universal tool that can be used in any setting serving families and children by teaching those children how to recognize and express their emotions appropriately. And so again, the reason why Connect the Dots is underneath our Kentucky Strengthening Families Initiative umbrella is because 2 of those 6 protective factors are embedded into this training: social emotional competence of children and nurturing and attachment. So when we talk about social emotional competence, we're talking about how families can teach children how to have those healthy relationships. And then nurturing and attachment, again, this is that 6th protective factor that Kentucky added to our initiative, is really talking about how families can ensure that children feel loved and safe. So our Connect the Dots training is comprised of what we call 4 different dots. And these 4 steps, again, serve as the umbrella just to help organize those targeted social emotional supports for different audiences. So challenging behaviors happen because actually a lot of things need connecting within that child's brain early on in life. So we're seeing a lot of challenging behaviors between 2 and 5 years of age because those connections and those pathways are being created at a rapid pace. So as children are kind of making sense of these things, the architecture of their brain is being built. Therefore, as the adult in kind of what we can talk about as a meltdown situation. So remember that we as adults are literally helping building that child's brain and these pathways for future learning to build upon. So I think that is pretty cool. And this training, I think, is great for your early childhood partners, if it's those providers that you're working with, because it's really a proactive, strength-based, positive training on addressing those challenging behaviors. And I think a lot of people kind of have an aha moment when they attend our Connect the Dots training, because this is really about us as adults making changes within our environment and how we interact with children to help address those challenging behaviors. So the goal here with Connect the Dots is, as the adult, your job is to recognize those difficult behaviors as a child telling us that he or she needs social and emotional skills to solve those problems. We teach this as coaching, not controlling. So just a little bit about the 4 dots. We have ensure supported environments. So this is really about kind of assessing the environment and looking to see if our environment safe for children, and are we providing an environment for children to be ready to learn. Our second dot is encouraging positive behaviors, and this is really about helping that child link positive behaviors to healthy relationships. And again, kind of going back to that protective factor of nurturing attachment and social emotional competence of children. It's all embedded in these 4 dots. So our third dot is emphasizing positive discipline. So by teaching the appropriate behaviors to meet those child's needs. And then our 4th dot is embracing unique strengths through nurturing individual differences and natural temperament. And so this training is set up in a way where it's very engaging and interactive throughout the training, where participants can talk about kind of real life struggles that they're seeing or those challenging behaviors. And then with all of our trainings, our goal is that our participants leave with a tangible action plan with strategies you can start implementing the next day. Our next training that I want to share a little bit about is our Family Thrive training. And so Family Thrive really goes into a lot of detail about those protective factors, those 6 protective factors, and how to be intentional on incorporating those protective factors within the work that you're doing with families and children. Again, I just want to reiterate that those protective factors can be we can use those protective factors in any setting. So I know that this setting is all early childhood providers, but we have offered this training to social workers, to targeted case managers. And so it's really kind of a universal training where those strategies can be modified and individualized to meet the needs of the families and children that we're serving. It's a research-informed approach to really increase family strengths, enhance that child development, reduce the likelihood of child abuse and neglect, and improve youth's ability to cope with stress. It's based on engaging families, programs, and communities and building those 6 protective factors. Let me go back one more. So our 6 protective factors, this is kind of our visual with explaining our protective factors, is that the protective factors are leaves on the tree. And we need to nurture this tree through healthy relationships, through good supports, to help this tree grow and develop. And so with our 6 protective factors, we have parental resilience, social connections, knowledge of child development, concrete supports in times of need, social emotional competence of children, and nurturing and attachment. So like I said before, nurturing and attachment is that 6th protective factor that Kentucky added to our Strengthening Families initiative. And I want to go into this a little bit more detail because this really kind of connects with the population of the children that you're served. It's really intended for children birth through 5 during those very early developmental stage when that child's brain is developing, because we know that children really need that nurturing adult in their life, and that can really kind of set the stage for future learning. So a child's early experience of being nurtured and developing a bond with a caring adult really affects all aspects of their behavior and development. And then we know from research that infants and toddlers who receive that affection and nurturing from their families really have the best chance for healthy development throughout their life. And this is really what we promote with this protective factor. We strive for individuals, for participants to understand what this means, and then also talk about how can you develop this protective factor? How can you nurture a child? And really kind of what does this mean? Really talking about the importance of the impact of nurturing attachment and why that is a protective factor for children. Knowledge of child and adolescent development. This means that families learn how their children grow and develop. And then with our youth, this means that youth understand the science of their development. And so when we talk about knowledge of child and adolescent development, this is really understanding that child development and parenting strategies to really kind of advance that positive development, that path for healthy growth and development within children. Understanding that one's behavior and stage of maturity, both physically and mentally, and having an understanding of that brain development and the impact, again, that trauma may have on the developing brain. So with this protective factor, we really go into a lot of detail about why having that understanding of child development is important and why it's a protective factor. Understanding those realistic expectations of children, and then also understanding how trauma can impact a child's development. So again, it's talking about these things in hopes that participants understand and then can individualize strategies to help enhance and promote this protective factor within the work that you're doing. Our 3rd protective factor is social connection. So families have friends that they can count on. And so with this protective factor, we're really talking about the importance of a positive, healthy relationship with individuals. And I think this protective factor is important, and to talk about too, that not all people have had a positive relationship growing up with somebody. And again, we talk about how we can support that strength-based approach and then help recognize how to reach out and kind of create a healthy social connection with individuals. I'm going to talk a little bit about our Parent Cafe model, which I think is a model that a lot of you all may be interested in, and to support the work that you're doing with the regional collaboratives. And I know that some of your all's goals are parent, caregiver, like family engagement. And this protective factor, social connection, really kind of marries great with that particular goal. And then also with our Parent Cafe model. Concrete supports in times of need. This is really a protective factor that's talking about that all families have those basic needs, and we have to ensure that families' basic needs are met in order to minimize that stress that's caused by challenges. And again, you'll learn that our Parent Cafe model is really a model that kind of helps with this particular protective factor. So individuals are able to connect and grow those healthy relationships and call upon those individuals maybe outside of the cafe to help and be a concrete support. social and emotional competence of children is an important protective factor, and one that I really feel strongly about and think that this is probably the most important protective factor. So this is where families and children, their interactions really help those children develop the ability to recognize, communicate, and regulate their emotions. I really feel strongly that children have to have that healthy growth, that as adults, we have to kind of teach and model healthy social emotional growth. And those are all skills that children will be able to take with them for the rest of their lives. And then our last protective factor under our Family Thrive model is parental and youth resilience. So what we're talking about here is that families can bounce back in order to move forward. And so resilience, I think, is a great protective factor to really talk about and recognize how we can manage stress and getting through those stressful times, especially when we are faced with adversity and trauma. It's about learning those coping skills, and it's about teaching that you are going to have challenges and it is going to be stressful, but what can we do to help support families and children to be able to get through those challenging times, that it's not like debilitating, that we can get through it and we know that it's something that's not going to happen all the time. So again, it's about this personal growth and positive change. And lastly, I'm looking at my time. I think I have about 5 more minutes. Is that right, Megan? Okay. All right. So lastly, our parent cafe model. So this is one I want to dive into because, again, I think our connect the dots and our parent cafe model is something that you're going to be interested in with your collaborations, with your collaboratives. So parent cafes are a free. So let me just say that all of our trainings that we provide at the state are free. There are no costs to programs. We do provide that as a free service. We are a statewide program. So parent cafes are really a parent-led get-together, and it's really an opportunity to provide a safe environment to encourage parents and caregivers to openly talk about the challenges of being a parent, but also the successes of being a parent or a caregiver. We say parent kind of as a universal term, but we do understand that the definition of parent can encompass multiple different things. If it's a biological parent or a grandparent, or maybe just a kinship or an aunt or an uncle. And so we kind of say that term parent loosely and understand that it does encompass multiple different parenting roles. This is an opportunity for caregivers to learn from each other in a fun and supportive environment. And cafes are designed around resiliency, incorporating those protective factors and adhering to a strength-based philosophy. And so what's cool about the Parent Cafe model, if you're not familiar with it, is that this is a conversational style type of an experience or an interaction. It's not necessarily a training that we are providing for parents and caregivers. It's an opportunity through pre-developed questions that we're having these questions, these discussions around protective factors, really to help parents and caregivers kind of talk about, again, those challenges, and then hopes to learn what are some resources, what's working for this person. Maybe that's something that will work for me and my family, and then growing those relationships with other parents and caregivers. It's not so much, I guess, advertised as a support group, but I really feel in a way parent cafes can be like a support group. I know myself as a parent, I've participated in parent cafes, and it's very, after leaving, you almost feel like you have this weight lifted off of your shoulders. You're in an environment where, like, oh, this person is going through the same thing that I'm going through. I'm not alone. I don't feel isolated. I can talk to this person about this situation because we have a similar lived experience. So parent cafes are really, again, created those opportunities for parents to connect, share, and learn from each other. And the goal here is that we want those parents and caregivers to be able to meet the needs of their families. So why come to a parent cafe? And this is something that you can kind of think about as you're thinking about maybe how you're going to move forward with some of the goals with the regional collaboratives, and think more about, okay, well, can parent cafes be a program that could benefit my local community that we can provide? So parent cafes really move caregivers beyond isolation in order to give them the support that they need to keep their families strong. And again, that sentence right there really goes with the mission of the Kentucky Strengthening Families Initiative with promoting those protective factors. It's a strength-based approach. We're identifying parents' strengths, needs, and their challenges, gain confidence in their ability to meet their needs and the needs of their children. We are helping parents recognize what they already know and ways that they can support others, and then also devise new ways and find resources to solve problems and fill their family needs. So again, these parent cafes are connected to those 6 protective factors. And I want to show you on this next slide, just a sample conversation card that can be used. Like I said, our parent cafe model, we do pre-selected questions that are related to the 6 protective factors. There is a national organization called Be Strong Families that houses this World Cafe model that we include. We use their framework within our parent cafe model. These are example questions that we have developed internally with the state, but there are opportunities through Be Strong Families to purchase kind of pre-developed conversation cards. There's also a nonprofit here in Kentucky that has created conversation decks that can be purchased as well. So next steps for you guys. We would love to connect with you, and Shannon and or myself are available for some future conversations and collaborations. We want to discuss how we can support the work that you're doing locally within your collaborative. Also, we want to talk a little bit about how you can connect to your early childhood mental health specialists within your region. So these specialists are different from my role at the state. So early childhood mental health specialists are housed within your community mental health centers. They're positions that serve the birth through 5 population. There may be some early childhood mental health specialists that are on this call today. You may have one of your specialists that are serving on your regional collaborative. It's a natural partnership that helps meet those social emotional needs within your community. I shared with Megan our regional early childhood mental health specialist map, so you can see who your specialist is within your region. I think our regions are not quite with the regional collaboratives and then the early childhood mental health specialists. Our regions are not split equally, and so there might be some overlap where a specialist will serve multiple different regional collaboratives. But again, I think that this is a great partnership, and I also want to share too that the specialists have been trained. They have been trained in all of our trainings, our Parent Cafe model, our Family Thrive, and our Connect the Dots model. They have received that training of trainers training and can provide those trainings locally within your community. I am also, and Shannon is also a resource for you as well to offer those trainings locally. So part of my role is training, but also technical assistance. And I want to share a little bit about how I can support you there as well. So it's really important for us at the state for folks that come through our trainings to not kind of put that training on the shelf and let dust collect on it. We really want participants that attend our trainings to find the information useful and implement strategies, decide on strategies that are relevant to your work that you can start implementing the next day. Our trainings are very interactive and engaging. And we really tried to individualize our training to meet the needs of our audience. So part of something that I can do, again, along with the specialist, is those trainings, but also I can be a support with maybe co-training with you if it's a first time doing a training, or providing any technical assistance or support that you need. It's my goal that individuals feel comfortable and confident with the training material and moving forward, because our goal at the state is to collaborate with various partners who believe in the Strengthening Families work. The more that we can work together to help strengthen families, the better Kentucky will be. So I'm excited for this potential, for this great collaboration. I think that there is the potential to have a great collaboration. And I think that you're going to see through further discussions today that our programs can really fit nicely within the work that you're doing. And I really want to help you be successful and implement those goals. So I'm going to turn it back over to Megan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Emily. And I will be sure to share your contact information along with Shannon's and that map. I'll drop it in the chat in just a few minutes. So while we do have some extra time, because you were able to provide such great information, we're going to go ahead and do a couple questions that are related to what you just talked about. And so Lynn and I are going to read off those questions from the chat. And then, of course, we'll have time at the end if we didn't get them all as well. But one of the first questions was, what is the cost to do the training for a community? And can you do the Connect the Dots training for parents?
Yes. So again, let me cover the question about the cost. So it's not a cost to you to have us come and train. So we are a statewide program, and it is a free service for communities within Kentucky. So that is a free service. I did share a little bit about some of the national partners and then a nonprofit who in Kentucky, and I'm talking more about the Parent Cafe model, that have pre-developed resources that you can purchase. Megan, I can send you some links to that information if you want to share that out with the group. That might be something that you're interested in. If you have monies to spend, that might be something that would be interested to look into. And then what was the next question?
Let's see. Can you do Connect the Dots training for parents?
Yes. So Connect the Dots is really for parents and caregivers. And so we can individualize, like I said, we can individualize the trainings to meet the needs of the audience. It's just simply kind of rearranging some examples and some of the verbiage to help meet the needs. So it's for caregivers and then also parents and providers.
So just to clarify, it is a research-based curriculum.
Yes.
Okay. And let's see. Someone asked, what should we do if providers have never received their stipends for their cafes last year?
Please send me an individual email and I'll be happy to look into that.
Okay. How do you order? After my last Parent Cafe, I cannot find my box of cards. How do I order another one? Willing to pay.
Okay, so that will be the resource that I'll send to Megan through it's Be Strong Families and then Provider Enrichment Services that have the pre-developed conversation cards that you can purchase. I will share that with Megan and she can share that out with the group.
If it's a link, you can drop it in the chat. If it's something else, you can just send it to me and I'll share it.
Okay.
And so that would be how they could order Parent Cafe conversation cards as well.
Yes.
Okay. Someone asked if the map is available. And so that can be another thing that I can share out following the webinar as well. Parent Cafe cards, we talked about that. Lots of great comments. Emily, if you have a chance to read all the comments, they're great. I will provide Emily's contact information.
Okay.
Yes. Lynn, did you see any questions that I didn't hit yet?
No, you grabbed them all.
Okay.
Got it.
And like I said, if you guys think of more questions, put them in the chat because we'll have time at the end too. And we will be sharing this. Yeah. So we'll be sharing contact information, the map, along with some other information that Emily mentioned. I can email it out and she can drop links in the chat as well to what she's able to. But we just wanted to get those questions done, but continue to put them in the chat because there will be time again at the end. So, okay. So I believe I'm gonna share my screen again. And we're going to go over to Compass. But before we do that, Brenda Hagen, I believe, carried her stuff today in a really cool way.
So I have this great tote. It says the Governor's Office of Early Childhood. And I just want to show you how big it is. I have a bunch of folders in here. I'm tossing in some books. I can throw in my pen and pencil holder. I can get 2 of those in there and a box of tissues and just about anything else you want. So the first 15 people that put their favorite dessert in the chat box get one of these.
Thanks, Brenda. You're like Mary Poppins. So I'd like to introduce our Compass consultants with us, Kate Irish and Dr. Sarah Heinemeier. They're going to talk a little bit about reporting for impact.
Good morning. It's nice to be with you all. I'm just noticing all these desserts in the chat, so it's a little distracting. I'm dreaming of coconut pie now that I'm watching the chat. But I'm glad to be here with you this morning and talk a little bit about mid-year reporting. It's kind of hard to believe that it's already that time, but wanted to have a chance to review and just talk through any questions y'all might have. So the reason we're talking about reporting is because we want to partner with you to be able to describe the impact of the regional collaboratives. So you might remember from a few months ago when we first talked about quarterly reporting that there have been some changes to the reporting this year, and that's really been in an effort to be responsive to you all, to streamline, make things a little bit simpler and more concise, and really to align the reporting with your RFA applications so that the reporting really matches and mirrors what you submitted in your application. And all with that, the intent in mind to have sort of common outcomes that we'll be able to report. So looking across all of the strategies that the collaboratives are implementing and being able to compile and share out sort of the impact and tell a story of what all the collaboratives are able to do across Kentucky. And so as a result of all that, we have sort of customized these quarterly reports. So they'll look a little bit different from last year. But the idea is that the quarterly reports will really only be asking for information that we need at that moment, at that quarter. So some of them will be significantly shorter than before. So we wanted to have a chance to go over the mid-year report, since this one, quarter 2 or mid-year, same thing, will look a little bit different than quarter 1. So if you can go to the next slide. So the mid-year report will consist of budget reporting, action plan reporting, and the narrative questions that you saw in quarter 1 also. So this is just sort of a screenshot of the report. I don't expect you to be able to read the tiny print here. I think you all have these formats sent out. And Megan, are they also on the website, the forms?
So they will be following.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they also have them in their email.
Okay, great. So you should have them. This is the first page of the quarter 2 or mid-year report. So you'll see this budget table, which should look familiar. So this should look like what was in your RFA and in previous reporting. So this is really where you are reporting on your expenditures. So that's quarter 1 and 2 combined for this report. And then the next slide has the next page of the report. So the new piece will be the action plan table, and I'm going to go over that in the next slide. And then there's just several narrative questions. Yeah, you can go forward. So this table comes directly from the action plan. So you all should be able to go to your proposed your strategies. So you can actually copy and paste each strategy into the action plan worksheet. And then you would report on your key outputs. So these here are examples that relate to what Emily was presenting on earlier. And they also are samples pulled directly from some of the RFA applications. So just to say that they're examples, this might not be what yours are. So we have strengthening families, parent cafes. So for one collaborative, they were projecting that they would host 5 parent cafes by mid-year, and that 60 families of young children would attend those parent cafes. So those would be the outputs. So sort of quantifying the services provided are what you're trying to look for your outputs. And then another example is Connect the Dots professional development trainings that Emily was just talking about. And so here you might say that if you had planned for 100, let's say in this case, you would be reporting on that you actually did achieve 100 teachers were trained using Connect the Dots. Sarah, I see your hands up.
Thanks, Kate. Can we talk just a few minutes about the difference between duplicated and unduplicated counts when it comes to reporting?
Go for it, Sarah.
Okay. So one thing to keep in mind as you're reporting is the difference between duplicated and non-duplicated accounts or counts of the number of people served. So in some of your services, participants may have the opportunity to attend more than one event. They might attend more than one parent cafe. They might attend more than one training opportunity. We're looking for the unduplicated counts here, which is the number of unique individuals that are served at least once. Now, this doesn't mean that folks haven't attended more than once. You might have parents or providers showing up to multiple events, but we're looking here for the unduplicated count of the number of unique individuals. Another option that you have is to report both the duplicated and unduplicated counts if you'd like us to see both aspects of that service. So the number of unique individuals, but then the total attendance, which means that we have all individuals in attendance every single time they show up. These can be a little tricky to work out. So please let us know, let Megan know, or let us know if you'd like some help figuring out the difference between those duplicated versus unduplicated counts and how best to report it. And I see a question, is this component of the directions on the mid-year report template? I don't believe it is, but we can certainly provide some guidance on duplicating and unduplicating counts. And again, we're happy to be available and walk you through it as you're preparing your reports.
Yeah, let's do that, Sarah. Maybe we can put some written guidance together and send it to Megan that can be shared out. Okay, yeah, I think that's really helpful information. Thanks. Okay, so this table is similar, will look similar to what y'all will prepare for your mid-year reports. And then the next slide has a table, and this is not what you'll put at mid-year. This is sort of a preview for your year-end report. And while that's not due till August, we wanted to preview it now because it's one of these things you kind of can't wait till the last minute to do. You have to plan for it and prepare for it. So that's why we wanted just to get y'all thinking about it now if you aren't already. And so you'll notice that this is similar to the table we showed in the last slide. It has the strategies and the outputs, but what is new here is the outcomes. And that's the piece where you would report those at year end. So for all 4 quarters, you would have that information. And some of these may require a survey. There may be different ways you would collect this data. So that's why it's important to plan for it. For instance, if you had a parent cafe that you hosted in October, you might not want to wait to survey the folks until August, right? So you'd want to do it right after the parent cafe. So that's why we just want to make sure that you are staying on top of what your projected outputs and outcomes are, so you can have a plan for how to collect that data. throughout the year. So for the first example, again, strengthening families, parent cafes. So this time, because they're reporting on the whole year, they were able to host 10 parent cafes now, and 120 families of young children attended those cafes. So those, these are really nice round numbers. It probably won't look like that. So these are actual numbers, not your projected numbers. So it might be 8, it might be 12, kind of for some of these. And then the next column is your outcomes. So like I said before, you might have a survey that you would conduct to get your outcomes. So in this case, it was 90% of participants will show increased knowledge of the protective factors. And now that I'm looking at it, that is actually is worded as a projected outcome. So if you're reporting this at year end, you would probably say like 93% of participants showed increased knowledge of their protective factors. And you would know this because you had conducted a survey and asked them about it, for instance. And so the next example is the Connect the Dots trainings. So 100 teachers were trained throughout the 4 quarters. And then 95% of participants reported improvements in the areas of reframing challenging behaviors as social emotional needs. So again, those are just sort of samples, but just gets you thinking about it. And as Sarah said, if you all have any questions or need any assistance now as you're planning for measuring these outcomes, feel free to reach out to us for help with these, identifying survey tools and that sort of thing, to help create the outcomes. But we did just want to put it out here just so you can be on top of planning and evaluating throughout the year. Sometimes it's really hard. If you wait to the end to try to evaluate everything, it works a lot better, and you get a lot better data if you're able to do it on an ongoing basis and you have a plan and process for how to collect the data and where you're keeping that information, so that you'll be able to report on it at the end. So again, this table just sort of shows you what the year-end report will be. The first 2 columns, strategy and outputs, that's what you'll report on your mid-year report, which is due in February. So I think the next slide has those dates, Megan, for the reporting dates.
Yeah, they do. Thank you. Before we go to that, we're going to do some questions, and then we're going to talk about some upcoming events and announcements as well. But before we do that, Brenda had such a cool bag, and so I wanted one too. So I brought my laptop in my cool bag today, my khaki branded Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood. And the first 15 people to tell me their favorite plant in the chat will be getting one. Thank you. And while you all are doing that, I'm going to have Miss Lynn help me go back through the chat and do some questions that we didn't get to earlier with Miss Emily, or that were brought up before. And I'm sure people have questions now related to Sarah and Kate's talking points that they did, or if you have additional questions, drop them in the chat or come off mute. Lynn, do we have questions from before?
It looks like we have questions for Kate. Do we need to list Q1 and Q2 separately, or can we combine? I.e., we have been screening with ASQ for both quarters. Should we report on Q1 in one number and Q2 in another, or report on the total?
Okay. So Sarah, you can chime in if you want, but there is a Q1 report that you guys completed. And so that would answer that. So Q2 should focus on what you've done during those months of Q2. And I think that those months are listed on the report. If not, we'll put that in the instructions. But just focus on that. Sarah, do you want to add anything to that?
One thing that's helpful is if you do have edits to your Q1 counts, to make us aware of those. So it's always okay to kind of provide additional information. If you need to clarify or amend something that already was reported in Q1, please just let us know. You can comment that out or just kind of say, we have an edit to the Q1 counts, and then keep us aware of what new has occurred in Q2. And again, we're keeping track of the questions here. So after today, why don't we do a little summary with some guys that will capture these questions in writing.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking the same thing. Maybe we could put some samples or something out there so that it's more clear about the mid-year outputs reporting. The other thing I was going to mention that I forgot too is because there are those narrative questions, if for some reason your outputs look dramatically different than what you thought that they would, feel free to explain that in the narrative questions if you want to. If you have something that came up that impacted being able to achieve those outputs, you have a few questions where you can address that too, to sort of explain if there was barriers or just unforeseen things that came up.
And we're on hand to help. So if you're running into roadblocks or you're just not sure what number is needed where, why don't you just drop us a line and we can walk through it, because we're happy to help kind of figure this out. And sometimes there are, things happen or there are circumstances and we just truly just need to puzzle it out together. So we are happy to help anyone who's got questions or wants some support on the reporting.
And you may have answered this, but is this component on the directions for the mid-report template?
Yeah, I think Sarah addressed that right when it came in the chat, but yes, and we'll also put together a little more detailed instruction when we send out that report formally, along with some questions that you guys asked and some more direction. And then as far as questions for the preschool development grant, we're going to take your all's questions from the chat and do a FAQ, which we'll be happy to share with you guys for future reference as well. Are there some more questions that we didn't get to, or?
I think that's it. Lots of plans.
Well, we're going to move to some upcoming events and announcements. But let me see here. Before we do that, I was wondering if, Lynn, if you had any good books lately?
Funny you should ask, and it's blurred because my background's blurred. But I'm actually reading a great book by Coy Bowles, who is from the 3-time Grammy award-winning country music group, the Zac Brown Band, and it is autographed in the front. And the first 5 people to tell me their favorite children's book will get a copy mailed to them.
That's exciting. So just as a reminder, for our regional collaborative chairs, you should have received an email from me yesterday regarding a survey about developmental screening. So if you haven't completed that, or if you did not receive that, please let me know. That's going to be through our developmental screening project that we're doing. So please get that done. And your reports, your mid-year report is due February 15th. Following this, we will put that, I will email it out, but it will also put it on the website along with some more detailed instruction. And then the Q3 report and the year-end report dates are on there as well. And then the Early Childhood Institute, those dates are April 19th and the 20th at the Griffin Gate in Lexington, Kentucky. Please be on the lookout through social media and the email blast for registration that will be opening sometime next week, most likely. And they will fill up quickly. So when you see it, get on it and get registered. And the future webinar dates, the next one is March 8th and May 10th, and they will all be at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But go ahead and mark your calendars for those and look for emails for additional information. And then, of course, we will continue to update you on the preschool development grant as we learn more and as the work starts. We will, of course, keep you guys in the loop with everything that we know. And then just one final thing before we say goodbye. Sometimes when you work in an office, you need a power bank or a set of headphones. So the first 10 people to drop what they learned today in the chat will be mailed one of these. And so thank you guys again so much for participating today, for taking the time today. I believe Miss Amy Neal would like to say something before we hop off. Amy?
Well, first of all, I just want to make sure that we have time. We
Yes.
still have some time.
Plenty of time.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and collect some of the questions that were asked, and each time as we do updates on the preschool development grant, we'll try to integrate some more information. But just to let you all know, some more dates that we have to provide information. You know, we always participate in regional training center meetings. We'll be providing updates at the Child Care Advisory Council meeting. If you are participating in the apprenticeship portfolio, we are going to provide an update at the Mentor Summit. We'll be providing updates during the Early Childhood Advisory Council meeting on March 16th. Obviously during the Early Childhood Institute. And then what we're really working to do is, because everyone is just too busy, is we're really cross-referencing existing meetings where we know our partners are, and, you know, asking to, you know, be on those agendas so that, you know, we're not asking you all to come to anything new. So again, watch our website. When we know more information, we'll update you, and we look forward to working with you all, because we're only going to accomplish the work with and through our partners. So thanks again for participating today. Megan, back to you.
Thank you all. And if you were one of our lucky winners, I'll be reaching out to you for a mailing address. I'll have to go through this chat, so it'll take me a little bit, but thank you all for taking the time today. It's always appreciated to see you guys and to be a part of our webinars. So watch those emails and social media for that Early Childhood Institute registration opening. That will be your next big thing. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your week.